NATO is deploying extra forces to Kosovo after dozens of people were injured in clashes between the police and NATO-led peacekeepers with ethnic Serbs. They make up the majority in the country's north, and they have been demanding the removal of recently elected ethnic Albanian mayors in ethnic Serb majority areas. NATO says some 30 peacekeepers were wounded in unprovoked attacks. The unrest has been focused around several towns in the north. Tensions have been rising since the mayors took office last week and came to a head on Monday.
After a day of unrest and clashes, authorities are taking no chances. NATO peacekeepers now stand guard on the streets of Zvevcan, sealing off roads near municipal buildings that bear the scars of the violence that happened here. On Monday, a standoff between police, NATO troops and ethnic Serb protesters turned into a running battle. Tensions flaring after demonstrators tried to force their way into the town hall. Violent scenes played out in towns right across the north, injuring at least 30 peacekeepers and dozens of protesters, with the EU's top diplomat now urging all sides to show restraint.
I expect Kosovo authorities to suspend police operations focusing on the municipal buildings in the north of Kosovo, and the violent protesters to stand down. There is enough violence. It has been too much violence. We have too much violence in Europe already today. We cannot afford another conflict.
The situation in northern Kosovo has been on a knife edge since elections in April that saw ethnic Albanian mayors taking office in Serb-majority towns. Most ethnic Serbs in the Belgrade-backed area refused to recognise Kosovo's declaration of independence from Serbia in 2008, a stance supported by heavyweight allies Russia and China.
China is closely following the developments and supports Serbia's efforts to safeguard its sovereignty and territorial integrity. We oppose unilateral actions by Pristina and call on it to fulfill its obligation to establish the community of Serb-majority municipalities.
More NATO troops are now on their way to help bolster security, with both countries blaming each other for the recent escalation in tensions.
Earlier, I talked to Miroslav Lajcak, the EU's special representative for the Belgrade-Pristina dialogue. He has been leading talks between the Kosovo government and neighbouring Serbia, trying to resolve decades-long disputes. I asked him to explain this flare-up in tensions.
Well, at the heart of this situation is the deep mistrust between the two communities, between the majority Albanian community and minority Serbian. Point two, the Serbs withdrew from Kosovo institutions. Elections were held in the 4 municipalities. The turnout was 3.4%. So these newly elected mayors have met the legal criteria, but when we speak about legitimacy or representativeness, then of course there is a huge question mark. And last Friday, when the government of Kosovo decided to install these mayors into the municipal buildings in heavily Serbian-populated areas, the Serbs tried to block this. And this is the situation which we are seeing still until today.
Mr. Lajcak, how big a blow is this to the efforts that you are leading on the ground to bring peace between these parties, where we've seen decades-long of disputes?
Well, I must say that this is absolutely unnecessary and illogical escalation because after, many months of negotiations, we've achieved the 2 important agreements. Agreement on the path to normalization of relations between Kosovo and Serbia in February, and then the implementation annex in Ohrid in March. So that means we have a pathway to normalization. We have a program which clearly addresses all the outstanding issues. We have started implementing this document, and then this came as a totally unnecessary but unfortunately very serious distraction, and we cannot have normalization and escalation at the same time. So we need to de-escalate, and we need to return to the work on normalization, to the implementing the document. If we had no document, I would understand that people may believe that this kind of action will help, but we have this agreement which has never been the case before, so we really need to return to implementing this agreement and to normalization.
NATO is deploying more troops to the region. Will this help de-escalate the conflict? Because from what I'm hearing from you, this needs a political solution, right? And from what I'm hearing from the European Union, that needs to come from Pristina.
Well, we obviously can only solve this through a political solution. That means through the dialogue which exists. This is the right platform. NATO has played a very important role in first of all, maintaining peace on the ground, and also in this current heated situation, KFOR units were separating the Kosovo police from the Kosovo Serbs. Unfortunately, many of them have been wounded in this confrontation. So therefore, reinforcement of NATO is reinforcing the guarantees that they will prevent further escalation. But obviously, NATO cannot solve it. All my respect for NATO. This is not for NATO to solve. We need a political solution. And
right.
Obviously, for this, both parties need to do their part. Yeah.
Mr. Lajcak, we have another dynamic here, and that is that Russia and China have both backed Serbia's position. What does that mean for Serbia's relations with the EU?
I see this as I would say, a statement which has no real relevance for the situation on the ground. Situation on the ground is, we have the dialogue which is led by the European Union, strongly supported by all 27 EU member states, and also very strongly supported by the United States. And the parties are part of this dialogue. So this is, I would say, the statement which really does not have any impact on the situation on the ground. What we really need is return to the negotiating table.
All right, that is Miroslav Lajcak, the European Union's special representative for the Belgrade-Pristina dialogue and other Western Balkan regional issues. We appreciate your time on DW News. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And DW's Idro Sreti joins me now from Belgrade. Good to have you on the program, Idro. What is happening at the moment? NATO says it's deploying additional forces to Kosovo.
Well, the situation now, it's pretty much calmer than yesterday, but I can say that it's very fragile as Serbs are still around the buildings of municipalities, and they announced another protest for tomorrow. And of course, NATO was there as it's the responsibility of NATO troops to take care of security in all over Kosovo since the war in 1999, and it's the first time we had injured people after many years in this part of Kosovo, and that's why NATO it's sending more troops, as they thought before that there was no need. So by years, only 3,700 NATO soldiers were left in Kosovo, but obviously there is a need for NATO to be taking control in the north and try to settle down the inter-ethnic conflicts that are raising up every day more and more.
And Idro, with this increased NATO deployment, can we expect that the tensions could be resolved anytime soon?
Well, it's a political decision. EU was trying to make a meeting between the Prime Minister of Kosovo, Albin Kurti, and President of Serbia, Aleksandar Vučić, during the summit that is coming. It's being held in Bratislava for security, but both sides, they canceled their trips there due to the situation here. So it's not easy to predict what's gonna happened there, as the sides didn't really move from their points of view and from what they aim to do, and the situation remains still very fragile, although we were used to see these pictures coming from northern Kosovo every few months now for last year and a bit longer. But obviously there is no political agreement to settle and make a deal how this situation should be resolved.
All right, that's Idro Sreti reporting for us in Belgrade. Thank you, Idro.